Excuse me, do you have a quest for hunting crabs?
Sorry, are you a Geladron?
No, of course not. I'm a human wearing a Geladron-shaped helmet and backpack that are connected and move when I talk.
Yeah, we don't serve Geladron.
You will all serve Geladron soon enough. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages,
Monster Hunter Wilds is such a wonderful game full of so many things to do and see and experience, and while most people get really just sort of tunnel visioned in on the actual hunting stuff, there's just so much time and effort put into the development of other aspects of this game that I feel like deserve a little bit more of attention, a little bit more of a spotlight for those of you who would otherwise not find it. So today, we're going to go over a bunch of things that you probably don't know about in Monster Hunter Wilds, with a major focus on fun things specific to the Dreamspell festival going on in the hub right now, but not entirely, of course. That said, getting down to business, let's have a quick walk around the hub and talk about some details that you might not have noticed. First up, right at the entrance, there is one of the puppet felines just being sort of admired by various NPCs, who will talk about the interesting craftsmanship being used here, and the NPCs that show up within this group are random. It can include actual named characters like support hunters and things like that too. These puppet cats as well also have a couple of interactions through the hub. There are also at least 3 locations where you can see a broken down version of the puppet cat that looks like it's just a prop on the floor, and if you watch these long enough, an NPC will walk up to them and sort of check them out, see what's going on. Sometimes nothing will happen and the NPC will just walk away. Other times, the cat will suddenly jump up and scare the NPC, and then they all have a good laugh and move on with their lives. The deeper part of this, though, if you may have known about that part, but you might not have realized, is that you can actually have this full interaction with your player instead of just the NPCs, though this does seem a lot rarer to actually have trigger in the game. Final note about the puppet cats then is just that their physics is just super wonky, and my favorite way of using that is by just running into them while they are trying to move around the hub. This is a form of cat bullying, of course, it's sort of animal abuse, but it's one that I find fun, and the cats just have such visceral reactions to being bumped into while they're wearing this outfit, especially the one that sort of carries supplies to the food station back and forth. If you bump into that one the right way, it'll do like a full little spin around and keep going, and I don't know if I'm the only person that's amused by things like this, but I wanted to share it. While we're in the hub then, just something that I've never really took in until recently and actually noticed is the sheer size of the living space within the hub. We have our traversable area, the places that we can actually walk to ourselves as the player, and that isn't small by any means, but if you climb up to the top of the bones in the back right side of the hub, then look across the left side of the hub and look up to the sort of mountain range above, you can see past our own tent, past the playable area, and see what is essentially a whole little village of tents, multiple Aptonoth driven carts full of supplies. Like the Grand Hub's actual in-world, in-lore canon scale is much larger than I think most people realize purely from the playable space we have access to, and I thought that was a fun thing to mention. As well, the last time that we talked about stuff like this, Hollow was doing it, and he talked to you guys about the fireworks that appear in the hub at night during the Dreamspell Festival. There was talking about what each firework shape represents, and then we hit this one, which Aaron referred to as some sort of bat. And I want to touch back on this with something that may be a bit minor to most people, but NPCs have unique voice lines added during the festivals, and that in itself is a hell of an extra detail that you might not realize when you consider that that means actually getting extra voice work done by the voice actors as a result, and one of Eric's lines can trigger if you are standing near him when the bat-specific firework goes up into the air, and he will say straight up something like, "That's supposed to be a scale bat," which are the little bat dude endemic life that hangs out in the oil well basin, and a very fitting Monster Hunter creature for a Halloween-themed festival. Next up, I want to talk about something that you cannot have, and before you get upset, I can't have it either, and I am very sad about that. Poogie is available as a pendant in Monster Hunter Wilds. Not for everyone, though. Specifically, this is an official pendant that was released by Capcom. Poogie running around in a little ball following you around. It is super cute. It's absolutely adorable. I want it very badly, but this will only ever be legitimately owned by a fairly small number of people because it was actually a reward for signing up and taking part in the Monster Hunter USA Championship that happened recently. There was a goodie bag for anyone who entered the qualifying round and paid the admission fee. There was a shirt, a bag, a plushie, and then an in-game item pack, and the code for the Poogie on a Ball pendant, which makes it a super rare collectible item. And while I wish I had this, I do think it's pretty cool that they did put this in the game. The fact that it exists is awesome. Now for something completely different, Chatacabra. Everyone knows Chatacabra, lovely guy, and of course, like any monster, he has a nest, which is the area that he goes to sleep in when injured. Some monsters share more generic nests, others have nests that are unique to them specifically, and Chotacabra is one of the latter. What makes this extra interesting though is when you are fighting him in his nest, there are various little like black spots on the tunnels around the place with rock formations, little cracks inside of them. I think there are 3 of these in the zone total, but if Chotacabra does his leaping attack or his charging attack at you while you're standing in front of them, he'll just get stuck inside of them, like a Tigrex that charges a pillar and gets his mouth stuck on it, but in a much funnier way because the full front half of his body goes through and then his butt just sticks out and hangs there. It's just so silly and so cute, and I love this interaction and the fact that it exists, and I just don't think enough people are aware that it does exist. After that, a bit of out-of-game stuff for just a moment here. Everyone knows League of Legends. Like the game or not, you are most definitely aware of what it is. Massively popular MOBA, one of the most popular games on the planet, and it has been for a long time. Personally, I'm more of a Dota or even Deadlock guy myself when it comes to that style of game, but tangent aside, the game has champions. The champions have skins that you can purchase and use, and there is a new skin coming for one of the champions that has this meat cooking animation, and it is a clear reference to Monster Hunter. And if your first inclination might be to say, well, he's just cooking meat on a spit roast, that's not like specifically a Monster Hunter reference, he's just making meat. Now I'm gonna play the clip again with sound.
Oh, we're eating good tonight.
Obviously, it's not the literal Monster Hunter meat cooking music, and there's no like disembodied voice at the end announcing how tasty it is, but I think that's a good 99% chance, or even greater, of being a Monster Hunter reference popping up in one of the most well-known video games of all time, and I thought that was a neat thing to be aware of even if you don't actually play that game yourself. Moving on to a hunt-related thing then, specifically for Arch-Tempered New Udra, as the big hotness at the moment. One of the things to counter that hotness that people have very quickly adjusted to is using the adaptability skill to negate the generic heat damage radiating from the monster itself, as well as the fire on the ground after the oil explosion. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there are multiple ways to have that same effect without using up skill space. The first is through specific meal consumption. The sizzling meal skill can negate the heat damage specifically, and you can consistently eat for this through barbecue grill meals with the monster chili item put in to force that meal skill. However, this does come at the cost of feasts, of course, having better stat rewards and insurance as a meal skill on those too, so it's more of a general knowledge thing than something that will actually improve your chances, because you're probably still better off eating a feast and then having the heat resistance another way. But the other option of note is the Ajarakan hunting horn. You can have this in your secondary weapon slot, so you can swap back and forth in between zones, and this has 2 very useful songs for this quest. One is environmental damage negation, which does exactly as it sounds. It does exactly what adaptability does. It negates the need for cool drinks, and it also negates the actual just ticking damage from being near New Udra. Not to mention the fact that it denies the actual fire damage on the ground after the oil explosion. It's basically just the entirety of adaptability as a hunting horn melody. And then there's also aquatic oil silt mobility as a song too, and that can be generally useful for the hunt too, so it's just good to be aware that this horn exists and that it has those options. After that, I want to stop and talk about the new Dreamwalker armor, specifically the male helmet armor piece, the one that turns your head into like a big living flame. And something that I found for it very early on that I thought people might like to know about is that you can actually change the size of the fire a little bit. This isn't like a unique hidden setting for the helmet or something, it's just the way that this armor piece reacts to certain pigments being used. Specifically, if you set the brightness of the color that you select to literally exactly 1, you get a nice vibrant color of flame still, but the actual amount of flame is just really tiny as opposed to the standard large one. How will you use this information? I don't know, that's up to you, but I thought it was something that was worth sharing and worth being aware of. Similarly, in terms of its actual usefulness, as in not a whole lot of it, players have recently discovered that there is a cap on how much equipment you are allowed to have in your item box. Specifically, you cannot own more than 2,500 pieces of equipment at one given time, which is an absolutely absurd amount to hit, but knowing that people are already finding this out and we don't have an expansion yet, I can imagine that is likely to become an issue for a number of players at some point moving forwards unless the developers adjust that. The best advice that I can give to avoid the cap is just keep on top of recycling your equipment. Recycle Ardian weapons that have bad reinforcements, recycle talismans that you don't want to keep, stuff like that. Finally then, let's stop back at the hub to talk about the diva, and specifically about her song choices, what they might mean, and what they could do moving forwards. All the songs they have chosen to add with the diva in these festivals to have her sing so far have a lot of meaning, and actually have very specifically been the end credits cutscene. the end credits cutscene song from different generations of Monster Hunter. We've had the ending song from 2nd generation, we've had an ending song from 3rd generation, and now our new diva song in this festival is the one that plays during the end cutscene of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate after you defeat Shagaru Magala. Thing of note, this song does have a lot of relevance to Shagaru Magala, who of course is very directly related to Gore Magala, and with Gore being in the base game and a pretty major part of the story, honestly, plenty of people have speculated that Shagaru Magala will come to Wilds at some point. Now, we haven't had an actual official Elder Dragon yet in the game, and I would be surprised if Shagaru was the first one, as he's usually considered a higher tier of Elder, sort of, but there's always the possibility that this is a hint towards the future and that it could happen, even if it is much more likely that this song was only chosen because it follows the same theme of the game and music being used, and of course is a very fitting song for the diva to sing. And just because we're talking about this song, we might as well mention that the cutscene this is from also has two very important characters in Wilds from their original 4th generation versions, because they were in that game and then they were brought back for this one. Little Miss Forge, who is the little girl in this cutscene, eventually grew up to be Gemma. The climax of this cutscene, and for you, is Ace Lancer and his Palico about to take on a Rathalos solo. The Ace Lancer, for those who aren't aware, is the same character who did become Fabius in Wilds. That said, the thing that I really wanted to talk about here is where we go from this point forward. We've had the 2nd gen end song, we've had the 3rd gen end song, we've had a 4th gen end song, so supposedly the next festival and next diva song will likely be like the Song of Guidance, which was the end cutscene song from Monster Hunter World. Of course, it could be another end cutscene song from 5th generation, but the point is, it will likely be one of those if things follow the current pattern. But what comes after that? Will that be it? Will that be the end? Will there be more? Well, one logical answer here is pretty simple. The next festival is the 4th one. Each one has been tied to a specific season, so instead of a 5th festival, we might just be rounding back to Blossom Dance again in the spring, have 4 festivals that go in a cycle year round. So maybe that actually will be the final diva song. But then what? Does that mean that we won't have a Title Update 5 at all? Or will we get a Title Update 5 without a new festival attached to it, because all the festivals so far have been attached to title updates? Could we get a new diva song as part of a Title Update 5 without having a festival at all? I don't know, but it's also possible that we do even get a 5th festival, because Iceborne had the 4 seasonal festivals, but then also the Appreciation Festival to celebrate the anniversary of the game itself. So maybe that we will have a Title Update 5 with an Appreciation Festival around 1 year after the initial release of the game. And if so, I honestly have no idea what to expect from the diva. I'd say maybe she'll do the Wild's End cutscene song, but she already has had that on her set list from the start. The one thing that I really hope they do add, though, is Proof of a Hero. I realize it is an instrumental track, but I could totally see them doing like a diva remix of Proof of a Hero with vocals that are all epic as a anniversary festival song type thing, and that would be awesome. In any case, I just wanted to point out the clear pattern of these songs and talk about our expectations moving forward from those as a result. That pretty much does it for today then, everyone. A bunch of things that you may or may not have known about Monster Hunter Wilds. Hopefully you've learned or found out a bunch of things you didn't otherwise know about the game, just to help you really appreciate the effort and detail put into it, and in some cases, to hopefully improve your enjoyment of the game too. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.